Ready or not, the mail-in election is ready to begin. The absentee ballots start getting mailed out this week in Michigan. And the U.S. brokers peace deals between Israel and two Arab nations. Odd curiosities, or do they portend something bigger? Today is Sunday, September 20th, 2020, and this is Flashpoint. Hi, welcome to Flashpoint on this last Sunday of summer, leaving us about a month and a half from Election Day. And as if that election needed any more gasoline, Friday night saw the passing of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. The notorious RBG was a hero to so many, especially a generation of women inspired to study the law. But the tributes and the praise could barely keep up with the breathless political chatter over who should choose her replacement on the high court. And so the election of 2020 manages to pull off the impossible and somehow intensifies again. And in a way, the election is going to begin this week in Michigan. State law says the state's clerks can begin sending out ballots starting this Thursday. Now, for many, concerns abound. For most of the year, Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson has been begging the legislature for some help to allow ballots to be sorted and processed before Election Day. She is getting a little bit of help on that front, though probably not enough to dramatically speed up the results we'll all be waiting for on election night. But when Benson wasn't jockeying with Lansing, she was again sparring with the president, this time over a screw-up on some ballots that went out to Michiganders living overseas or serving in the military. Instead of Mike Pence, the president's running mate was listed as the guy who was actually running for vice president of the Libertarian Party. Now, Benson blamed a computer glitch, but no one believes there's really any allowable margin of error when it comes to this year's balloting. Ahead this morning, we'll talk to Benson about that and about the preparations for a massive turnout both at the mailbox and at the polls. And if you are planning on voting by mail this election, and perhaps you've never voted that way before, we will look at what you need to do to make sure your vote counts. Also this morning, the pandemic, the racial unrest, and election season have pretty much overwhelmed some news from the Mideast. Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates have formally opened normalized relations with Israel. The president sees the Abraham Accords as a new dawn in the Middle East. Is it? Or is that overstating it? And what does it mean for the Palestinian cause? It's all coming up today on Flashpoint. We have kept in near constant touch with our Secretary of State over these last few months, and today a particularly opportune check-in given the ballots going out this coming week, but also the row between the Michigan Secretary of State and the President this past week on Twitter. Jocelyn Benson is with us off the top today on Flashpoint. Madam Secretary, you mentioned to me earlier before we started the program, I said you've had quite a week, and you said, or as I might call it, just that's just another day. That's the way it goes.
Friday in September.
Yeah, exactly. But whereas the first dispute that broke out between you and the president was wrong. He said that you had sent out ballots to everyone in the state when you had really only sent out applications, which has been upheld by the courts. But this time, I think a lot of Republicans believe the president has a point. You mailed out about 400 ballots to international Michiganders for their votes. And it had the wrong, Mike Pence's name wasn't there. It had the wrong name under the president's running mate. You've said that this was a computer glitch, but didn't there have to be some human error attached to this? Wasn't someone supposed to read that as it was printed up before it went out?
Yes. Now, importantly, they were not sent out to 400 voters. It was a programming error and a computer glitch that then went to clerks, who then printed out the ballots and, had an opportunity to proof the ballots and then send them on. And it's not clear how many. We just know two things. One, what happened on our end was two people at the same time were entering a code. And essentially, a computer glitch caused a bump of a candidate's name from one segment to another. Now, that was just kind of uploaded. There's no way on our end to see that change. It's only when it gets printed by the clerk and then sent out to the voter that even becomes apparent. So that's why you said, it's a computer glitch programming error. We know, and then once we caught it within 90 minutes, we immediately corrected it. But that said, in that 90 minutes, we noticed that clerks had accessed that portal 400 times. So that's where you get the 400 number. And then we immediately contacted clerks and said, hey, did you actually send any of those ballots out? If you did, you need to immediately follow up with this correct ballot. Here's the correct ballot. Here's the updated information. And working to, again, make sure every voter that did inadvertently get an inaccurate ballot gets a corrected one as close to immediately as possible, and then have a procedure in place on our end or at the local clerk's end to ensure when those ballots are returned, if both ballots are returned, the incorrect and the correct one will count. If only the incorrect one is returned, we'll contact the voter and try to remedy that, but still make sure their vote is counted. And then, of course, so we're still, but again, this also, every indication is that this only affected really it's the handful of voters. And that's why I responded to the president by saying, we can't, it's false and misleading to expand and say this is bigger than it is. This was a glitch. We fixed it. The system actually worked in that regard. We followed up with voters and we corrected the error as soon as we could.
I'm going to assume, though, that you feel the pressure and the understanding that you and clerks, secretaries of state all over the country have really no margin for error right now.
Yeah, and again, that also underscores, some of the procedures in place for multiple proofing and at the local level are important to follow. Yes, that also underscores the high level of scrutiny we're under and the moment that we're in, which is that there are entities out there, actors out there who want to take any potential thing they can and use it to sow seeds of doubt in the electorate about the sanctity of the elections, which is another reason why I felt I needed to respond with facts and truth and say exactly what happened, but also to say it's anything bigger than that is misleading.
Well, the president referred to you on Twitter as a Democrat Trump hater. I imagine you would take issue with the phrase Trump hater in advance of an election, but you are a Democrat. I've always wondered if it was a sensible thing for a Secretary of State who's in charge of the election system in a state to have a party affiliation. Are you comfortable being referred to as a Democrat as we head into a massive election?
Yeah, I've always said, well, certainly the system is set up the way it is. You do have to run as a member of a party. I have found as Secretary of State working to be impartial, which I have. I don't endorse candidates, for example, in any race that's on the ballot in an election I oversee. And myself and many other colleagues on both sides of the aisle have similarly made that commitment in our states. And so it is ironic that despite our best efforts that we are, again, still in this hyper-partisan era where simply because we have an R or a D after our name, people will make presumptions. But I've worked in every way that I could to ensure that I'm serving in an impartial way, not making endorsements, staying positive in my remarks on social media, but also, again, responding to misinformation with facts and data and truth.
Every reporter in town right now is getting emails from people with what I guess I would say are anecdotal experiences with what's happening with the voting system right now. But it's people saying, I've received 2 different ballots have come to my house. A ballot came here or an application for somebody who no longer even is alive, for people who moved a long time ago. You've got this, and we've talked many times about how there's no evidence of mass voter fraud, but we see lots of little, it's like being pecked to death by a duck. We see lots of little evidence pieces of things that show us a system that has maybe lots of little potholes in it and opportunity for turmoil. How are you feeling so far with what you're hearing? Because you've even set up a website for people to report problems.
That's right. We set up a website, michigan.gov/election security, and an email, misinformation@michigan.gov, for people to send questions about information they may be hearing and wondering whether it's accurate or not. I think it's important to remember that in this time of great uncertainty with the pandemic and the newness of the right to vote by mail in our state, which was enacted by voters in 2018, both of those things have collided to create a significant amount of anxiety and concern this year, and just a lot of new facts and information and changes that people may not have seen in past elections. Now, importantly, we have sent applications in past months, back in June, as you mentioned, to every registered voter to request to vote by mail. Those also are online at michigan.gov/vote. But also a lot of other organizations. Those applications are public documents. It's simply a piece of paper. Anyone can send it, and indeed they likely will, to voters in the weeks ahead. What voters need to know is that only one application to get a ballot counts. That's all you need, and that's the only one that's going to count. And we confirm the identity of the applicant with the signature that's on that application that's received by the clerk, verified, and then we get one ballot sent to each person. Now, importantly, ballots have not been sent yet, so no one's received multiple ballots. Ballots will be sent beginning later this week,
right.
Start in September 24th. And then once ballots are returned, there's another security check where the signature on the envelope in which that ballot is returned must match the signature on the voter file. Once that signature match is made, the voter is marked as having returned their ballot, and anything else that is returned is going to be investigated for potential fraud.
Jocelyn, I got to get to the situation in Detroit here, because we had, I don't think there's any other way to put it, it was a rather disastrous primary where 70% of the votes or so cast in Detroit weren't eligible to be recounted. We had a protest out in front of Janice Winfrey's house this past week from some Detroiters wanting her to step down. We've, by the way, invited her to be on Flashpoint throughout the last month and have not been able to get her here to talk about what's going to happen for Detroiters in this election. But the Board of Canvassers only certified the Detroit vote based on the promise that the state was going to fix things that were happening in Detroit. You were hoping to train some 6,000 volunteers to make things better in Detroit. Please give us an update on how you feel that effort is going and where things stand right now with regards to Detroit.
Well, we've entered into a partnership with the city clerk's office. And by the way, the city clerk has an enormous task ahead of her, and no one can really meet the enormous needs of this year's election alone. And so with that in mind, myself, the mayor, the county executive, Warren Evans, the county clerk, to provide support and build a partnership to ensure that the 4,000 precinct workers we need on Election Day are recruited and trained, that the 2,000 absentee ballot counting election workers are going to be trained as well, because some of the errors you saw in August were the result of overworked, underpaid individuals who'd been on the job for nearly or more than 20 hours. And when that happens, ballots get put in the same pile when they should be kept separate, which can lead to the bookkeeping error that arose. So we're going to be helping to improve training for those workers who are going to be handling those ballots, and we'll have folks supporting the security of the process as well. And importantly, we've also we're going to be opening 21 satellite clerks' offices in early October.
Right.
We're installing over 30 drop boxes all around the city that will be available in the weeks ahead, and making many other changes as well to increase the access to the vote for our citizens in the city of Detroit, as well as the security of the process.
I've got to get to a break. Jocelyn, I appreciate the time. I know we'll be talking to you again before Election Day. Thanks so much for the time today.
Thanks.
You bet. Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, we come back, we'll talk about some agreements that have been made between Israel and some of their Arab neighbors. What does it mean? This is Flashpoint on Local 4.